Hi, this is Denver and Riley from the development team at Underbelly. Today we are going to be adding a feature to some code that Denver has been working on. Denver, what do we got going?
Hey, so we've got this app on the right-hand side. Right now it's just a single web page. This is going to be a site that will allow someone to search for bicycles, and then we'll display information about that. Let me tell you a little bit about the project so that you can have some context. This is a Next.js app. We're using React, of course. We're using TypeScript with this project. And let me just explain this UI a bit more. So this will be like the landing page that users will come to. So there's just a simple title, search for bicycles. And then what I had in mind here is this will be a typeahead input. And so I've spent some time working on the UI for this typeahead input, which I'll show you the code in a minute. So we've got the UI all done, and then this basically allows you to like easily select bicycle brands from a list, and then it's going to be filtered as you type. You can tab through them and click away and come back. So stuff like that. So yeah, right now it's just the UI, I believe, is pretty much how we want it. But what I was hoping to accomplish together will be hooking it up to get data from a GraphQL server. So on the left here, I kind of wrote down what our goal would be for this session. So yeah, typeahead input should use real data from the GraphQL server. And then let me know if you have any questions as I explain this. So a few things with that. We need to provide the user with options to select based on what they type. So that's pretty straightforward. That's what you would expect. And then when the typeahead input is empty, there should be no options present in the menu. So if this is empty, I don't want to see any options if I click here. And then finally, a request to the GraphQL server should be debounced so that we don't send too many requests to the server. Are you familiar with what what I mean by that?
Yeah. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that if there are repetitive keystrokes, that it does not take them in succession. And typically people will debounce this to between 100 and 250 milliseconds. So that if you type two things really quick, we're not making two requests simultaneously, that we want to wait to make that request. So it won't block people from typing. What it will do is it will wait until somebody is done typing to make the request to the server.
Yeah, exactly. So someone just holds down a key. If we didn't debounce it, we would be bogging down the server with a bunch of requests. So that's what debouncing can help avoid.
Yep. And as soon as they stop, it waits 100 milliseconds. If nothing else is typed, it will make the request.
Yeah. And then just for the scope of what we want to accomplish, I think for now, when someone selects something from this menu, we're just going to console log it. We will eventually need like the ID of what was selected, which we'll have when they select it. But for now, the scope of this task, we don't need to like do anything other than just like say we got it. So
this should show up with something, right?
Yeah. The only reason it doesn't is, let me show you the code real quick.
Okay.
I guess. Oh, this is a view, bicycle search view. So I've made some fake options here, and then I just made up a fake rule, like if the input length is greater than 5.
Okay.
Show them.
Okay.
So we'll get rid of that, but that was just kind of initially what it looks like as I was making the UI.
Okay, cool. I will drive first. So the first thing that we need to do is remove these 7 lines.
Fair enough.
Right. So we want to remove the fake options, and then we're going to go down here where we have this on change event, and we're going to delete this as well. So, I mean, basically this is what we want to do to get started, right? Is we just want to return an empty object. Oh, but set options is never. So what is that select options here? What was that before?
So that was the use state, the function that use state gives you.
So yeah, we're going to set that to an empty array for right now. And then eventually we're going to do something with the server. So on change, we're going to make a GraphQL query right here, right? So make GraphQL query and result to state. Right. So that's what we want to do right here. But what's going on over here is a TypeScript error. We're pretty strict on our TypeScript to say, hey, we don't want to have any variables not being used anywhere. So what I will do for now, just to get rid of this error, is I'll console.log input value so that we don't have to see this error, and it'll clear this out. Okay, your turn.
All right. So we made a few changes by getting rid of some dummy data. So now we're back to at least a working UI. So now I think we should start thinking about how this GraphQL query is going to work. So we're going to be using Apollo for a GraphQL client. And typically we would use something like use query. And this allows you to provide a GraphQL query that will get run when this component first mounts. So typically you might use query for making a request, but this one's a little different because we want to make a request to the GraphQL server based on some kind of user action. So I don't think use query is the right choice for this scenario. Apollo does have some other functions that we can look at. I'm going to pull up. So use query will get run immediately when this function component gets rendered.
Mm-hmm.
But since we only want to fetch data after the user types, so it's like based on user action. So that's a good use case for use lazy query. Let me resize this for a second. It's basically the same as if you were to use query, except for it gives you a function. So you say use lazy query. This will have the GraphQL query that we're going to write. You can give it any variables, and then it gives you a function that you can then later call, like based on an onClick, for example, here. And then at that point, we could fetch the data. And so what I was thinking over here in our code, we could use lazy query up at the top. And then in this on changes where we could say, oh, the input is not empty. So we need to update the query with whatever the user has typed. And then at that point, we'll get a new state. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that Apollo has this use lazy query. That's very interesting. So anyways, let's do that. Let's add use lazy query then.
Okay. Maybe before, let's type that out here. So I think it'll pull up the docs again. All right. So the first thing we're going to get back is a function. So we could call this like get or fetch bytes. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine. Naming is the hardest thing.
Then it gives us an object that we can grab stuff off of. I think we'll just want at least loading and data for now. The data is going to be the data. And then that equals use lazy query. And then we need to write a GraphQL query. So let's call it that might be all we need for now. So let me import that. I think it's Apollo
/React hooks. So something that's, I don't think anybody will be tripped up on this, but just in case, this is a common pattern in GraphQL queries to have them be all caps. So just FYI, that's what that is.
Yeah, and so right after I type this import, we're going to go figure out what this query needs to look like. So I think we'll import it from utils, queries. I think that's it. So now maybe we could switch back to you, and maybe we could try to investigate what our query should look like.
So what you want me to do right now is to investigate how we're going to write this query. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, let's figure out. So the GraphQL server's set up. There is a playground running. We could maybe take a look at what the query needs to look like for that?
Oh yeah, we could do it that way. What is it on?
I think it's localhost 4000/API/GraphQL. There we go.
Okay. For those that don't know, this right here is the GraphQL, so that you can kind of browse the schema a little bit. If we take a look here, to open this up, you just click this docs. And in here, you can see that we have in the schema bicycles.
It's just a query. I think it's a root query type.
Root query type. And then what it says here to me, that the brand is required, correct?
Right. I think this query is intended only to be used if you're sending, hey, what bicycles match this brand? And so the string it's not like it's not like the full brand. It's more of like a fuzzy search for, how do I say it? Like basically, we can open it up and it's easier to show than explain.
So brand string. So what I can do, and one thing that's really, really nice about GraphQL is that you can basically type it in here, right? So we can say, I want bicycles and I want brand. I could just type in B and it would return stuff. Okay. And so there's, some magic happened there. The really cool thing about GraphQL is that I can just request what I need. I don't have to go to the server and say, give me this massive JSON object, when all I'm looking for is the brand.
Yeah.
So that's one really nice thing about GraphQL. I'm going to also do the ID, because if you're using React and you're looping through things, you have to have a unique ID. And I'm guessing all of these IDs are unique.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's the query that we would need right there.
Okay. And so what's going to happen is that this right here is going to be a variable. So in GraphQL, you have this fun little thing that can pop up down here. What's really cool about this right now is this is telling us that variable brand does not appear in the GraphQL query. What we're going to do now is we are going to name the GraphQL query. So we'll name this, what did we name it before? Bike query or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
It's just this, right?
Yeah, and I think we need a query.
Oh, query. Yes.
Yeah.
We have query, bike query. And what we're going to say here is that we are going to be passing it. So if I hover back over here, it says variable brand does not exist. So we are going to be passing in a variable called brand. And brand is going to be a string. And now this, so we got our error to go away here. Now this error is saying brand is never being used. So now if I do brand right here, all of our errors should go away and we still should get the same results. I believe we can put a question mark here to say this is optional.
So I think with GraphQL types, it's optional by default, but you can add the exclamation mark.
Oh, interesting.
To make it
required. So here's our query. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go utils, and then we're going to say, utils query index. You already have all of this here. We are going to import GQL. So const, what did we name this? Get bikes.
Yeah, get bikes. We can do whatever.
GQL, and then in here, we can just paste this. Yeah. I have a command that will automatically format it as I paste it, which is nice.
Yeah, I think if you save the file, it'll format it.
So now we have our query. And if I go back to what we were doing before, I did not export const.
Oh yeah, good catch.
So yeah, now it's your turn. I've created the query. Now we just need to use lazy query and pass. We already passing it in. Now we just need to use fetch bikes. Right.
Let me make sure that everything is getting imported. Oh, well, yeah, let's do your little trick where you just console log it so the error goes away. So now let me fetch bikes. You can just say variables. Let's spell that right. Variables. And then what was the parameter called? Brand?
Bikes.
I think it was brand.
Let's see. Yeah, you're right, brand.
So brand would be the input value. And then we don't need to log that in there.
Shouldn't we assign fetch bikes to a variable so that we can pass it in at one point or another?
Let's see. Prompts.
Bikes,
let's at least just log this and we can look at it.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. So let's delete this right here.
All right, so let's watch our network tab and see if it at least succeeds. So we should see a GraphQL query when I type. Oh, there it was. Let's go bigger. So we can see so it got sent. It sent the byte query with the variables S as the brand, and then we can get the response with the formatted. This is what it gave us. So it looks like it's pretty much working as far as like the data's coming back as we would expect, but now we need to do a little bit more work as to like assigning it to our options and things like that. Plugging it into the UI.
So let's see this set options, and then you have it's an array of option. Where is option coming from here?
That's exported from the
typeahead input.
The way this works, this typeahead input takes these props. So it'll take a list of options which conforms to this type, true or false indicator to show the dropdown or not, and then on change and on select. So we need to make our data that comes back conform to.
It needs to look like this, right? It needs to look like an array that looks like this. So what are you expecting to be the label?
The label would be the bicycle brand, like the Brunswick.
Okay,
product.
And then the value would be the ID?
Yes. So let me go back.
So basically, we don't need to do anything with the data up here.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
We don't need the data. We just need the result. Because actually, if you go to the console, oh, interesting. Result is undefined. So why would the result be undefined?
Oh, I know why. So we actually do need the stuff up here because when this function runs, it doesn't return the result. It gives you it back up here.
Okay, so we actually don't want set options on the onChange event at all.
Yeah, I don't know if we need that.
We just basically delete all of this.
Yep, just run that.
And this is what onChange does. All onChange does is get the bikes. That's all it does. And then up here, we're going to have data, right?
Yeah, so we'll want loading as well.
I mean, not that I disagree with you, but why right now do you think we want loading?
Because, well, I don't know. Let's try not using it and maybe we'll see.
I mean, we don't have to use it. Obviously, it'll be a better user experience if you have some type of loader, but right now we don't have time to add a loader. But
yeah, just do data. I guess we could also get errors if there are any, and just log it or something. But yeah, I think data's fine for now.
Did you mean option? So now if we go 17 plus, oh, nope, that was 16.
Just do that.
So data is undefined, right? So actually in this type ahead, we still have that open over here, right? Options is required. Do you have a default prop for this?
No.
We could just set options as an empty array right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably what we should do is we don't want to expect, because the other thing that we could do is we could say right here, we could say that this is data or an empty array. I prefer doing it this way. Now, the other thing that we have to do is we have to mutate this data a little bit. I think that I've driven for long enough. Do you want to take over?
Sure. Let's do options. So we need to map it. So I guess we will need to check if data exists because it's going to be undefined and we can't do map.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't map on top of that data.
Data.map, B for bike. And I think it was label, which is B.brand. Value is B.id. So options, and then down here, the options will be undefined, which I think in that case will use the default prop you added.
Yes.
So you can just throw it in like that, hopefully. What's happening? Who hasn't chosen it? Oh, okay. Yeah, so since we haven't created a type for that yet, I might just do any right now.
No.
Okay.
So I mean, it wouldn't be that hard to add that type, right? Yeah, we could just add that type right here.
Bike, no, brand. Yeah, very funny. Cool. So yeah, that wasn't too hard. Great. So where are we at now? I think if we type anything, whoa,
it's going to explode. Data.map is not a function. So let's look at your network tab and see what data actually looks like, because I don't think it is what you think it is.
Yeah, I think I know what it is now.
Where's the query? It's probably this right here.
Data.bicycles.
Yep, data.bicycles. So what if no bicycles are returned?
It does an empty array, probably.
Let's see. Oh yeah, yep. There you go. There you go. Okay, you are correct.
So we're getting really close. It looks like. Let me resize this. Okay.
So the only thing we have left really is to debounce it, right?
Well, we don't want to show all of these when they click on it. Let's see. So I think we need a little bit of logic down here that says like, if input value is just that.
Oh, because you're saying when we click into it, it's running the on change. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well,
because yeah, that's not what's happening, right? Because if you click into it, so actually let's refresh the page real quick here, and if we click into it, nothing is there, right? So and then as we start typing, it did the search, and if I click out and I click back in, that search is still there. But if I delete this, it reruns the search.
Okay, so yeah, we don't want to show this list if there's nothing in the input. So I think we might need.
So if the input value equals a blank string, we're actually going to use state up here. So
yeah, we just want to hide the drop down.
So what we're going to do is we're going to use state here. So we're going to do react.use state. This is going to be the control for whether the dropdown is being shown or not. By default, this is going to be true.
Yes.
And if I go back here, we are going to call this show, what is it? Show dropdown?
Yeah.
And then right here, we're going to set show dropdown. And then, so if I go 12 and up, we are going to say that we want to show the dropdown. So right now, by default, show dropdown is true. And set show dropdown is not being used, which is correct. So we're going to say set show dropdown to false. So yeah, now what we should see is if I type in ABC, doesn't return anything. But if I type in Argon, it does. And if I go back and get to here, we get no results. That's the intended result, right? There's nothing more that we need to do there. Okay. So I think all that we have left is the debounce, correct?
I believe so. Debouncing, I know Lodash has like a built-in one. Usually whenever I need to use a debounce, I like Google, give me a debounce function. I don't know.
I think that's fair.
Opinions. Okay.
No, use Lodash. I think Lodash is great.
Import. Is it named export?
No, so how I would do it here, let me type it real quick for you. So import debounce. So you could do the named export if you want. You could do import underscore from Lodash. If I can type Lodash, this works. And then you would do just like how you see it here, underscore dot debounce. What I tend to do a little bit more / debounce like this.
And
then you could say, yeah, debounce. So yeah, that's how I typically do it, is import debounce from low-debounce. Okay. So now, yeah, you can come down here and debounce your stuff.
Yeah. So let's see, there's some tricky things with debounce. So basically debounce, you give it a function and you give it a wait time. I have ran into a problem before where, because I defined it right here, it gets redefined every time this re-renders, and then it like screws up the debounce. So I don't know if that's going to be a problem, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, let's take a look and see.
So let's watch this. What's that?
Oh, it's because you're not running fetch bikes inside of
I did the wrong one.
Yeah, you did. You need to put fetch bikes right there. Exactly.
I really think that Apollo GraphQL is pretty amazing because, like as we saw earlier, if you type something here, like let me type SUR, again searching for Surly. So you can see over here on the server console, it did one, like it sent a request to the server. But if I delete that and type the exact same thing again,
it still runs the request to the server.
That should not do that. So I think it is this debounce function that's causing us problems.
Whenever we type, bicycle search gets re-rendered, and because of that, it clears out the debounce, which means that the debounce is never actually running because it gets renamed in like a temporary memory thing over and over again. And so the debounce is something different over and over again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's always the first, because it's always the first letter you type, because at that point, it's like a brand new function. So that's all it knows.
Probably the best way to solve this is to use, what did we decide to use? Use callback, right?
Use callback, yeah.
Basically what React.use callback does is it takes a memoized function and it allows us to persist that function across renders. Is that a good way to explain that, do you think?
Yeah, it returns a memorized version of it. I don't know.
What's going to end up happening is that now this is going to be ran inside of on change, right? And in here, we're going to have the arguments and we're going to pass into fetch bikes the arguments.
Yeah. Right. I think so.
All right, let's try it. If I clear this out, refresh this, I guess I would need to clear it out again. And then if I type a bunch of stuff and let go, we'll get a response. Should have, this is so small, this entire string in it right here. This ASD should be in there, not just the A. And before what we were receiving was just the A.
And I guess going back to the server logs, we could check that it is indeed just doing one. So let me refresh the page. So if I type SUR, searching for Surly, it did one request. And then if I delete that again, SUR, you can see nothing else happens. So it's already cached on the client. So that's one cool thing about GraphQL. That's how we found the bug, I guess. So
yeah, that's cool. Cool. Anything else you want to add to this, Denver? Or what are your final remarks here?
Thank you for pairing with me. I think we got this working pretty well.
Yeah, and we've built this just recently on a project that we're working on. So I like that we are showing off GraphQL. I think that people really like that. So if you have any comments or any suggestions, leave it down below and we'd be happy to look into what you guys would like. Thanks.
Thanks.